Okay, so I'm currently not connected to a VPN at all. I'm just connected with VPNs. This is just like my regular my regular connection. So, I mean, I should say that my regular connection is it's a very fast residential connection. It's a 1 gigabit synchronous connection in theory. So typically I get like in the 800 plus range down, and generally around about the same up. Although on Wi-Fi you're limited to what Wi-Fi 6 is capable of. So this like 350 up, but this is still a very fast residential connection as they go. And my latency when I'm not connected to a VPN is very low. Now, of course, this is using Netflix's server, so fast.com is the speed test I tend to use. This is Google Fiber connecting to a very nearby server in Austin, which is why the latency is so low. And also, Netflix have very fast servers that are geographically distributed, so you're always going to get pretty much the best result you can get using this. If I use something a bit simpler like that ping test website, which is a bit more realistic because it's a server that's a bit further away in the US, because a lot of servers are hosted in different places or whatever, and I test again using this, we're seeing kind of well, actually this time I've chosen that Hillsborough one, which I think is sort of Oregon somewhere, so I'm getting like an 80 millisecond ping to that. Or if I reload this page again and do that Vint Hill one, then I think I'm just getting like 40 milliseconds roughly ping to that, which is a very realistic, very normal kind of good kind of ping. I mean that's pretty average, and that's not bad. Anything over 100 milliseconds I consider to be slow latency. So let me just show you kind of how long it takes to load different websites. So if we bring up the Chrome DevTools, which you can get to by like right clicking and clicking inspect, the network tab in that allows you to disable cache, and it shows you how long it takes to load different web pages, which is really useful for performance analysis, which is exactly what we're doing here. So if I kind of keep this open and I load, I don't know, let's just load google.com. How long does Google take to load? Google's very fast, so it finished in like literally 700 milliseconds for the initial data, finished doing everything, rendering the page within less than 2 seconds, right? Like Google is one of the most optimized websites in the world, so that makes sense. If I load actually I should do this without clearing this. So if I clear this again, and I go to my own website, andrewbeveridge.co.uk, it's also pretty fast, like 800 milliseconds. The total web time is like 1 second. There's a lot less going on my website, so that makes sense too. Let's see if we can load something more complex that's got a bit more going on. Let's load bbc.co.uk. So we've got a bit more of a complex website. Still loaded pretty fast, like it loaded all of the initial 10 megabytes in like 500 milliseconds basically, and then took more time to load the page, so 5 seconds to render the whole page, but still generally very fast. What was your example, Lindsay?
Neopets.
Neopets. All right, let's load Neopets. Is that neopets.com? So loading neopets.com. We have, so that one definitely was a bit slower. So you see it took like 3 seconds to load, but it also transferred like 50 megabytes of data to load this web page. Like this is a heavy website. It's got a lot of data on it. So that's actually a pretty good example. So with those in place, let's do the same again, but this time connecting to a VPN. So as I said earlier, like the location matters quite a bit. So if you just want the fastest, then you can use one of the presets, and the presets that it chooses for you are going to be based on like the server that's closest to you by default. So if I say browsing, it's choosing a US server. I mean, that's kind of ambiguous. You can be more specific and choose like specific regions within the US, somewhere under here, I think. But this is chosen one that's in Texas, right? Like, so I'm connected to Dallas. So the latency from where I am to Dallas is not going to be, it shouldn't be very big. So if we do the same tests, we should see like not a huge distinction. So let's first do a speed test, right? So this is doing, actually maybe it doesn't let us do a speed test with fast.com. Interesting. Well, that's fine. Let's do a speed test with speedtest.net instead, because I think they'll probably let us do one. Speed tests when you're connected to a VPN are a bit funky though, because like so much depends on what server the speed test is being hosted on and what the peering is from that VPN server to that. So it's not a super fair test. But when we're just kind of pulling data which is a fairly easy thing to do when you're over a VPN connection. Like if you're pulling one long big blob of data, then I'm still getting pretty fast speeds. Not as fast as before, so I'm not getting like 800 megabits per second, but I'm still getting 600 down even on the VPN, and I'm not getting like 500 up or whatever I was getting before, but I'm getting like 250 megabits up, which is still very solid. That doesn't paint the entire picture though, because that's, like, as I say, it's kind of like the downloading a large blob of data, which generally is a fairly easy thing to do when you're hopping through another hop. But latency is another question. So let's do a ping test while connected to this server. So I'll test the Vint Hill one that I was getting like 40 milliseconds on before. Why is this website so glitchy? Weird. Anyway, whatever. See if it works. Wow, actually that's less impacted than I expected. But yeah, that's barely impacted at all. Like it is slightly higher by like maybe 3 or 4 milliseconds, but barely any impact. And that's because the server that I'm connected to, as I say, is like really close to me anyway. So my traffic is making one more hop from Austin to Dallas before then going off to Virginia-ish, somewhere over there, wherever Virginia is. But that additional hop is only taking like maybe 4 or 5 milliseconds. And you can see there's a bit more variability in it as well. So like this graph is slightly less stable than it was when I wasn't on that server. But it's still not like hugely different. Let's load a couple more websites as tests. So let's do the Google one again. Well, that was ridiculously fast. Let's do that again with the cache disabled, because I don't think that counted. I wonder why this is on that tab. Okay, maybe I just need to do one tab at a time. So we go to the network tab, we clear this, and we reload the page. Yeah, I mean, ridiculous. So it's still very, very fast, like 400 milliseconds, Google's hyper-optimized website. Let's clear it and load my website. Still pretty fast, a couple of seconds, no major performance issues there. bbc.co.uk. And this is all with the cache disabled as well, right? So yeah, again, 2 seconds, load in 3 seconds, load 8 megabytes. And let's do the big one, neopets.com. So here we've got, loaded in like 2 seconds. In fact, this almost feels slightly faster than when I wasn't connected to the VPN, which is kind of crazy. I mean, there probably is some edge caching happening as well. Like some of these resources might actually get cached in Dallas at like an edge node or something, because a CDN, which is what a lot of this data is being served from, is a content distribution network, and it's like actually designed to have data hosted geographically close to where things are. So depending on what CDN I connect to, it could actually load faster when on the VPN and when not. But yeah, certainly no major issues there. Let's say I switch server to one that's further away. So I don't know where it's further away from here. Can we do one in South Africa? Yeah, let's connect to South Africa. So now we are using, in fact, let's just do geo. Let's just make sure that we are actually connected to this. I don't know why I clicked on that one. I should click on the first one. So I'll probably do what I want. Now this is already feeling a bit sluggish to me. Like this website took a little bit longer to load than I would have liked. But yeah, we can see we are connected to Joburg. So let's do some of the same test that we did a moment ago. Let's close these tabs. I've got different things open. I thought I had this open. Well, anyway. So what did I do first? Google. So that felt notably slower. In fact, it's only just finished loading in like 7 seconds, which is slower than websites want to load in, almost 10 seconds actually. So, this is obviously having an impact. Let's check bbc.co.uk. Again, noticeably slower. And this one, it's taken like 15 seconds to load, which is crazy slow. And then let's do Neopets. That's going to be interesting. Oh, actually, no, I was doing mine first. Andrew should be ready. See how long that takes. Go 4 seconds. Alright. And then let's do neopets.com. Whoa. This is definitely taking its sweet time. We are up at 20 seconds, still not fully loaded. 23 seconds. Wow. Yeah. So, hopefully you kind of get the gist there that like connecting to different servers can make a big difference. I just want to actually see, out of curiosity, like what is my latency on this server. So let's do the same destination, that US Vint Hill one. Even the ping test website itself is taking forever to load. I'm going to wait for the website to fully load before I start the test so that it's a fair test. Alright, that's loaded. Let's go. Wow, yeah, now that explains it. So my latency is like 550 milliseconds. It's actually quite consistent at that range, but that's a horrible latency. Like that is satellite internet, like old school satellite internet latency. And it makes sense because the network traffic is probably going through some ridiculous journey to get to wherever I want it to be. Like for example, let's say let's quickly get the IP address of my server. So there we go. Let's use this as an example. So this IP address is my server in the UK, so it's in Peterborough. And the reason I find that interesting is because I can look at like what were the hops. So I can do trace. Is it trace path or trace route? I can't remember. Trace route. Let's try trace route. Yeah. So if I do trace route to my server in the UK. Actually, I'll see if I can get a graphical version of this. Is there like a graphical trace route? Visual trace route. Let's see if we can do this. Network map. Yeah, there we go. That's what I wanted. Trace path or trace route. Basically, it tracks exactly where every packet of network traffic from your computer is going to on its journey to wherever your destination is. So every time you load a website, you're not just connecting directly from your laptop to a web server. You're connecting first to your router in your home, and then your router is sending that traffic to your ISP's servers, probably very close by. And then from there, the journey it takes to get to wherever the server is kind of dependent on a lot of things, and it depends on how that server is hosted, where it's hosted, and what your ISP's relationship is with different networks around the world and stuff. Like it's kind of confusing. But to me, this is kind of interesting because I know I'm in Texas, USA, and I know that my traffic here, I wanted it to get to the UK and get to Peterborough. So here we can see that like the first hop was on my own computer. That's an internal IP address, and then I'm guessing these are all just like my router in my home. I'm not sure why there's 3 hops there. And then it gets to Linode in the US, and then it gets to where's PH? That's also in the US. Is that Philadelphia? I don't know. I'm not sure. Then it gets to the UK. It gets to the EU. I'm actually amazed that made it straight to the UK. How did that manage that if I'm connected over VPN to South Africa? It might be that those ping packets actually didn't go through the VPN because the VPN might be configured just for web browsing, so it might just be that it's not funneling all protocols. So that might not be a fair test. Anyway, I'm probably going off on too much of a tangent here. I think my main sort of steer here is first test with a few different servers and kind of actually look at what the test results look like from a ping test and a speed test and then actually real world browsing, like loading web pages and measuring using the browser tools how long it takes to actually load different websites. And then, like, if you're finding that things are much slower than you expect, then we can explore exactly which thing it is that is the problem. Maybe it's a particular VPN server that you're connecting to that's a problem, or maybe it doesn't. Maybe you're having issues like on your own Wi-Fi connection at home, or maybe your laptop is like doing something funky with how it's routing traffic. There's kind of a lot of different factors that could be impacting the performance that you're seeing. But yeah, I need some of that additional information about like what you're paying and what your load times look like on different servers to be able to figure out kind of what's the most likely cause. But it's certainly not true that generally like all VPNs are slow. Like that's way too much of an oversimplification. If you're connected to a VPN server that's geographically close to you, and that VPN server is a decent quality VPN server, like pretty much everything on this NordVPN thing will be, there's no reason why you should notice a huge impact to how long it takes to load web pages. The other thing you mentioned though of like getting captures, that is actually a really common problem, unfortunately, because when you're connected to a VPN, your IP address that websites see is the same IP address as thousands or maybe even millions of other users of that VPN service, because that VPN server is being used by loads of people at the same time. And that causes websites to think that traffic is suspicious because they're seeing a whole lot of connections from different sessions on the same IP address. So websites do tend to throw up these anti-spam captchas a lot more frequently when you're connected to a VPN. And there are some sort of solutions for that potentially. Like none of them are easy or free. Like you can pay extra for a dedicated IP address with some VPN providers, and then that IP address becomes just yours. And then websites, they might still throw up a captcha the first time you access them from a new IP address that's just been registered or something, but then they shouldn't keep throwing that up at you if it's only you accessing them through that IP address. I think NordVPN actually does offer that as a service. I think they even tried to advertise it at me, but I haven't paid for it because I don't really care too much about captchas every now and then. It hasn't really bothered me. I don't know where it is, somewhere in here. Or maybe it's just on the website there, flogging it. Yeah, dedicated IP address, yeah, so they have a whole thing about it. In fact, they explicitly talk about avoiding captchas as part of the advertising for it, but I mean, I don't really find myself seeing them that often. I mean, like if I go back to connecting to this, and I just browse a random website, I don't know, how much is the fish? I'm Googling, I'm searching stuff, ain't having any issues, and this is all connected to the Dallas VPN, like I'm not, I don't know why I keep going back to the same websites, even though I'm not measuring anything this time, but I'm not just like generally seeing captchas on every website or anything like that. I can browse the internet pretty quickly and easily without having any major issues. Interesting. Yeah, Dallas. What is this? Is this YouTube? Yeah. Sorry. How much is the fish is a silly song by Scooter that I forgot about. Alright, I'm going to stop rambling now. I've been rambling for too long. Yep, hopefully this was informative in some way. Good luck. And if you provide me with more information, I will help more.